Yeah, yeah, then we won't bother each other, hopefully. Looks. Oops. It just kicked me off.
Can hear you, Mary.
I might just kick me off. Just to let me go back, and I'm re-entering. Okay, here I am. Oh, let me know if I'm not clear or if I start to freeze up. It is 4:02 and it looks like everyone's here. So let's begin our meeting of Thompson Springs Special Service Fire District Administrative Control Board regular meeting. Present, Mary McGann, Evan Clapper, Quinn Hall, Jalen Hawks, Halliday, I'm trying to see, make sure everybody's here. Mallory Nasser and Chris Baird. Did I get everyone?
Yeah, can everybody see and hear me now?
Yes. Yes, Greg, I can see and hear you.
Okay, I was having a bit of problems.
There's no citizens to be heard.
Did you say Rory, Mary? I didn't hear you say Rory.
I didn't, is Rory on, Chris? I don't see him.
Okay.
Rory, yeah, Rory is not on yet. He's not here yet.
Okay, but we can start. We have a quorum. We don't have any public comment. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Greg Halliday. Do I have
Second.
a second by Gabriel Wojtek? Roll call vote. Mary McGann, yes. Evan Clapper.
Yes.
Gabriel Wojtek.
Yes.
Greg Halliday.
Yes.
Jalen Hawks.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Motion to ratification of payment of bills. Did everyone get that? The bills, the email?
Yeah, I just got Madam Chair or President District. I move that we approve the bills for $465.44 and payroll for $465.44. Total bills for $533.30 for total bills and payroll totaling $998.04.
Motion by Evan Clapper.
Second.
Second by Greg Halliday. Discussion. Roll call vote. Mary McGann, yes. Jalen Hawks.
Yes.
Evan Clapper.
Yes.
Greg Halliday.
Yes.
Is Curtis Wells there? Okay, so motion passes.
I didn't vote, Mary. I'm a yes as well.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gabriel. So Gabriel Wojtek, yes. So ratification of bills approved. Fire report. Recent incidents, none so far in this April. Equipment, rescue wildland engine 21 pump is inoperable, already checked out by one mechanic. We'll get a second opinion. Backup engine 31 and engine 41 fully in service. Annual wildfire refreshment training and recertification in process. Chief is working on 2020 USDAG wildland grant application due on May 8th, 2020. New Utah State online control burn permitting system for unincorporated county lands in effect. Water district tenant agreement and cost share still in work. That's the report. There's no new business, old business. There's no future considerations. Anyone have future considerations? No public closed session. This meeting of the Thompson Springs Special Service Fire District is adjourned. We will open the Grand County Council's regular meeting. The time is 4:07. Present, Mary McGann, Evan Clapper, Jalen Hawks, Greg Halliday, Gabriel Wojtek, and I don't see, not present is Curtis Wells and Rory Paxman. Christina Sloan is present. Quinn Hall is present. Mallory is present, and Chris Baird is present. Citizens to be heard. Are there any citizens to be heard? Citizens can dial in at 1-669-900-6833. Meeting ID 948-9592-5530. Password.
Mary,
Yes.
so we have a caller with phone number ending in 8156.
Okay. Thank
Is
you.
that somebody who's wishing to speak as a citizen to be heard?
Well, I scarcely know what to say. It's almost like the meeting is it's nearly being held in secret, but I've managed to break through the walls. But I'm encouraged to wait for fully to the end of the meeting to see the discussion on the general plan and just to see what you guys have in mind for our future. Good luck to us all is all I can say. Health is wealth. Thank you.
Is that this Mark Horowitz?
Okay, Mark Horowitz, I thought so. Any other citizens to be heard? We will ask again at 6 o'clock. Approval of minutes for April 7th, 2020. I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. I will move to approve the minutes from April 7th, 2020.
Motion by Jalen Hawks,
Second.
seconded by Greg Halliday. Discussion. Seeing none, I call for a vote. Mary McGann, yes. Evan Clapper. Evan Clapper. Jalen Hawks.
Yes.
Gabriel Wojtek.
Yes.
Greg Halliday.
Yes.
And Evan, can you hear me? Evan Clapper? Have we lost Evan?
Is computer on mute?
He looks frozen.
He looks frozen.
Oh, here he comes.
There we go. Evan, do you approve the minutes?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Ratification, minutes, unanimously voted yes. Approved. Ratification of payment of bills.
Chair, if I may,
Yes, Gabriel?
I would move to approve ratification of bills on April 21st, 2020. Total bills in the amount of $1,002,158.19. Total payroll in the amount of $237,711.98. Total bills and payroll combined in the amount of $1,239,870.17.
Motion by Gabriel Wojtek. Seconded by Evan Clapper. Discussion. Roll call vote. Evan? Yes. Gabriel Wojtek? Greg Halliday? Jalen Hawks?
Yes.
Is Gabriel there?
Aye.
Oh, Curtis is here. Curtis has joined the meeting and he voted yes, and so did Gabriel. So ratification of payment of bills passed unanimously. Council disclosures. I do not have any. Anyone have some council disclosures? Gabriel?
Nope.
Jaylyn?
Yes. I would like to disclose that I'm co-owner of B&B, and we will briefly touch on a B&B discussion late in the evening as part of the general plan update discussion. And I am also related by marriage to one of the high-density housing overlay applicants.
Evan? Greg Halliday, do you have any disclosures? Curtis Wells?
I'm an owner of nightly accommodation business. And
Not
that
pertaining to this agenda. Thank you.
if we discuss bed and breakfast associated with the general plan update, that I've disclosed that.
And Evan, do you have anything to disclose?
None with this agenda.
Okay, thank you. General counsel reports and future considerations. Gabriel?
I do not have anything to report at this time.
Jaylyn?
Yeah, I have a lot to report. Somehow my meetings got doubled after the COVID-19 session emergency happened. I first of all report on going to the Housing Authority of Southeastern Utah meeting. They are not letting the emergency slow them down. They have taken the appropriate precautions. They have just closed and started construction on 6 mutual self-help family houses, units at Wingate Village. And they've got 5 more, it looks like. So that's phase 1. The first 6 families have started. Phase 2, they've qualified 2 households, and they're taking applications for the remaining 3 households for the second phase of Wingate Village. The Moab Area Partnership for Seniors continues to be on track. Those are the 36 apartments over by the hospital on Special Service District land. They are taking they are leasing up right now. They've got a waiting list of 19 on the 1-bedroom and 9 on the 2-bedroom apartments for senior housing. 5 have been approved for the market rate units. There's 6 total market rate units. The rest will be, I believe they're according to ability to pay. And Housing Authority is looking into reserving land parcels for future builds at Arroyo Crossing. Attended the AOG meeting by phone. Well, no, that's not true. I'm watching AOG emails, and they have learned that they will be getting an additional $465,000 that will be coming to the Southeast Utah Association of Local Governments as part of the federal emergency funding. That pot of money is to help, I believe it's people 70% or below federal poverty level. I could be wrong, but anyway, in any case, it's low income to benefit a specific population. And there are multiple ideas. They held a public hearing. The board will approve any final allocations of that money. So I will keep you updated as that progresses. Also part of those emails, there are 2 pots of money that I believe is run through workforce housing, but it might be run through AOG. Anyway, I've notified appropriate agencies that there is still funding left to avoid homelessness, prevent homelessness, and also money to help pay rent. So, and that's outside of the special emergency funding. And I've let several nonprofits that deal with that population know. But if you have any others in mind, just shoot them a quick email. That's what I did. Or shoot me one. And then UAC had a pre-legislative session phone call, and they discussed all of the upcoming bills and what they might do. And of course, everything changes on an hourly basis with that. So I'm really not going to report on that. And I have not seen an update on where everything ended up at. But that all moved quickly. I did just read online that Governor Herbert has called for a 4th special session in 2020. Probably most of you know more about those things than I do. I had a call with Julie Walker of the Tripartite Board. That's the board that deals with the food bank, and I think they're over the HEAT program that helps people with heating bills. I think they have some rehab money to help rehab houses that need work and people can't afford to do it. Anyway, they have their own separate board. She is required by law to have an elected official from each county on that board. It was Mayor Emily from our county. She resigned a couple of months ago, so they've asked me to fill that spot. So if that's appropriate, I'll probably be bringing something to the council next time if they want to approve that. I don't even know if that's necessary, but I will do whatever we need to do. I did tell her that I'd be happy to do that. Let's see. USACCC, I don't even know what that stands for. I Googled it. Maybe somebody who was on the AOG board before knows, or on the UAC board. Got something to do with UAC. Anyway, was on a legislative update call with them. And that's all my meetings. That's all I have to report. I wasn't muted the whole time, was I?
No, you weren't.
Okay, I'm quite finished.
Evan?
My cemetery district board meeting was canceled or postponed, and trail mix, we will get an update from here shortly. Besides that, I've just been trying to follow all the UAC updates and that emergency legislative session, but I think you guys have all seen the same emails I have, so nothing anything, nothing to report this evening.
Thank you, Evan. Greg Halliday?
On the 8th of April was the Thompson Springs Special Service District. That's the water board up there. That was rescheduled to the 15th. On the 9th, I was involved with helping citizens burn debris here in the valley. On the 10th, the same thing with the Castle Valley Fire Department, assisted citizens with burning yard debris. Having a hard time getting a hold of the Conservation District, which should have happened on the 14th. I don't know what's going on with them yet. Also on the 14th, I had the Transportation Special Service District. That meeting was canceled. On the 15th, had the Museum of Moab. That was a conference call. They're not in the position to open at this time, obviously. They're looking to June, probably July. They're solvent as far as their funding is concerned. They're working on a new membership campaign to try to contact former members to get them hopefully to renew their support and become a member of the museum, which I would encourage all the people on the council to do that as well. They are working on their displays again. It's coming along pretty good. Also on the 15th, we did have the Thompson Springs Special Service District. That's the water board up there. That was another conference call. The museum and the Thompson overlapped a little bit, so I came in about 10 minutes late to Thompson. Listen, I was in with Thompson. They have their operators report. They're looking at about 110 gallons per minute from all of their weirs and all of their water sources up there. So far, all their customers are getting all the water that's obligated to them. They're talking about opening some different valves, and there's some issues revolving around whether or not they should be chlorinating or have to be chlorinating. For the time being, they are chlorinating and will continue to do that. The board's going along. They've got an application into the CIB for some funding to do some development of their springs up there and to do some studies on how to come up with better water sources. And they have some housekeeping issues that need to be dealt with as far as their budget. But right now, everything seems to be going along pretty good. And that's all I have. Thank you. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Curtis Wells, do you have anything to report?
I haven't had any, it's been pretty busy working on the economic reopening stuff. It's the health department, kind of formalized a group to work through this kind of final stages. Zachariah's in that group, Elaine is, and I think that it sounds like the health department will have some updates for the community, hopefully by the end of the week, to give people an idea of what to expect with the next order. But I think that between those discussions and Jen Sadoff yesterday, the CEO of the hospital, to inquire about their progress and their planning. And it was a very informative discussion. And she had communicated that, she feels like the physicians at the hospital and the board would be supportive of a plan to reopen the economy. And I know Chris with Braden Bradford with the health department, and they kind of had a conversation along these lines. And so it seems like minds are meeting on kind of where we're at as a community in the process, and how we can get the economy reopened. And there's been a lot of very interest on how to do that, when to do that. And so I'm happy with the progress there. I know I shared a Google document with Jaylyn and Evan that kind of outlined the first brain dump of ideas. I wasn't quite sure if we should start sharing that because people can be in there in real time commenting, and I didn't want to violate a quorum. But since that document has been worked on, the health department's already revised that one, and they're revising another one. So at this point, it's kind of like, okay, we've inputted as much of our thought and expertise and opinions into the the discussion as possible, and they're going to have to make some decisions. And so I'm looking forward to that. I think that I'm getting a lot of concerns and questions about what the county's doing financially. And I know that the county executive has begun to implement, some workforce related measures that we're likely to be updated on. I spoke with Mary earlier today, and this is part of a future consideration that I'm personally feeling really anxious to have a discussion about our budget, and amendments to the budget, not just related to the workforce measures that are being worked on and implemented. But I know we've got some revenue projections, that are very rough estimates, but they're pretty consistent with what we're seeing, the businesses are seeing, and what the city's seeing. And so for a future consideration, I think it would be good if we could have a special meeting next week that focuses on the budget. We can get an update from the hospital. They're willing to come in and update us on all their planning that they've been doing. And then also by then, hopefully we'll have an update from the health department that we can discuss as we await the amendment to the order. And so, those are things that, I think the community are pretty antsy about. And I think in particular, I would like to discuss, reductions in compensation in addition to furloughs and layoffs, and want to make sure that we're exploring all measures. And, I want to say, I know that, there's sensitivity to getting into a discussion publicly about who's essential and who's not. But that is a big part of our job. That's a big part of why I ran for office, was my opinions on what lanes the government should be in. And so I want to be clear that I want to have that discussion. And I think that's an approach to have, and it's necessary at this point in time. We do have a fund balance we've built up in the general fund over time, that's recently, gone down. That's in the 4 million range. There is a fund balance in transient room tax. And as as a business person, I want to understand how we can reduce expenses without draining those savings, and specifically as it relates to TRT. I'm not comfortable with supporting the depletion of our ability to generate more business that we're going to need. And so I want to have those discussions, and it's not on the agenda tonight, but if we can get a meeting called to really drill down on that, I'm anxious to do that. And, at this point, that's all I have to report.
So Curtis, I have a question on the discussion with the health department and their order. I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain that unless something went awry, all orders in the state expire on May 1st. His is currently written to the 4th. I'm sure he's aware of that. Has that discussion been had at all to have something in place on May 1st?
I'm not.
I'm going to cover that in my update too, because it
Okay.
Relates to a bill that just passed last week.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there has been some mention of this commission that was created by the legislature, that's looking at areas in the state and assessing how they're reopening, their economies and for those of you that have been following those specific bills of the creation of that commission, you may speak on that too, but that has been mentioned in this discussion, that this isn't just us, but not that issue of that 3-day gap.
You're back. Do you have anything to report? Evan? You have anything to report? You're not coming through, Evan. We're not hearing you. At least I'm not. Evan, Matt has worked it up, so if you want to come down here and plug in your computer, you can.
Hey, Evan, I think you might need to unmute your computer's microphone.
Okay, I will give my report. I've been working with the Utah Homeless Network COVID-19 group on a lot of their conversations and their Zoom meetings. And they've been helping find ways to get some funding for our homeless population. And then we're working through the Multicultural Center through getting those grants. We had a travel council meeting. They have been very busy fielding calls about camping restrictions and when tourists will be welcome back. They have also been working to locate the overnight rentals that are operating illegally. So they've been very active with that, and they've been working with the Sheriff's Department on that. And then today, I think most of us got the email that Elaine let go of 3 of her employees, and their fund balance it's looking very slim. It's going to be a difficult recovery and how we're going to do that. So yes, the conversation is important. Myself, Chris Baird, and Christina Sloan spoke with Christina Watkin, Carl Aubrich, and David Hinkins about allowing health departments to be able to take quick action to deal with health issues. It doesn't appear they heard us though, because all three voted in favor of House Bill 3004, which will require health departments to meet with legislative committee before they can declare an emergency, slowing down the process, as well as making it political as opposed to scientific and based on data. So that was very disappointing. Solid Waste Special Service District is an essential service district, and the employers are at a higher risk of being exposed to the coronavirus than other workers. So the office, they've taken some very good measures to protect their employees and each other. Office staff is working from home. Evan, the director, and Chris, the facility supervisor, aren't in the office at the same time. They stagger. Klondike employees are traveling out to Klondike in separate cars. All employees are practicing social distancing. They've been supplied with gloves and masks and hand sanitizer. The household hazardous waste collection has been rescheduled to August. They've reopened the Recycle Center for 2 days a week, Tuesday from 1 to 5 and Saturdays 8 to noon. Very well received, and people are giving nice donations. The price of recycled cardboard has increased significantly. So we are shipping out all of our cardboard and getting a profit on it. So that's good news. Curtis already pointed this out, that I thought it would be good to have a meeting next week with the hospital and the health department to discuss plans. So I was thinking we could have it on either Monday or Tuesday. I'll work with Mallory and Chris and Quinn to see when it'll work best for them, and then get a hold of you, and we will set up a time to discuss what's happening with the hospital, get an update there, and also to, like Curtis says, start talking about how we're going to move forward. The other future consideration I have is I've been working with Chris Kaufman, and he's done a lot of work to figure out the impact of how we're being impacted as a gateway community differently than other communities. And I want to lobby our congressmen and senators, as well as getting the help of other gateways communities, to see if we can request and push that in the next stimulus package that there are some monies that are earmarked for gateway communities. Jaylyn has said she would help me with this effort. It's going to involve quite a bit, finding out who to contact, who to talk to, and I'm opening up. If anyone else would like to help with this effort, I would appreciate that. And just shoot me an email and say you would like to help, and that would be great. That's my report. Thank you. Elected officials, Christina, do you have anything to report?
Yes, I would like to report on some things. I've worked on numerous things you guys have mentioned already, but I'm not going to repeat any of that. We did have the second level of the appeal that was filed by Reed Pendleton against the public health director's order last week. That was before the full health department board. And Christian Briner for Carbon County, who technically represents the board, and myself both represented the health department. And Reed appeared with his attorney. The board has not issued written findings yet, so we're still waiting for that. Senate Bill 3004 has been mentioned. I've been working on numerous bills in the special legislative session with different county attorneys, and it's been a really interesting time because COVID has really brought together a big mobilization of all the county attorneys in the state. The meeting that Mary mentioned with our local representatives and Senator Hinkins came out of a letter that the 20 of 29 county attorneys signed onto. That was a lot of work to support local health authorities and their ability to respond locally. But meanwhile, Senate Bill 3004 did fly by in the legislature last week. I think it was signed into law on Thursday. It creates the statewide commission that you've heard about. There are no rural representatives on that statewide commission. It largely aligns with the governor's 2.0 plan. And so the fact that it sped through the legislature as quickly as it did, and the language that's in it, it seems like it was a done deal before it hit the floor. The county attorneys were able to soften some language that really troubled us, which is that the governor, this bill gives the governor, upon recommendation from the statewide commission, sole discretion to determine how each of the counties and each of the local communities will reopen into the future. And so we specifically, we didn't have much of an opening to change any language in that bill because it was a done deal, but we did do our best, softened it a little bit to allow the governor to provide an exemption to his recommendation at his discretion. So it's my personal opinion that the recommendations that come out of the governor's office are likely going to be statewide. It's my personal opinion that, you know, I'm not that hopeful that Grand County is going to be treated differently, but as has been discussed, there is a presentation and a plan being put together, and various brilliant minds are working on that, and they're going to present that to the governor by week's end. So I certainly hope I'm wrong. He has until the 30th to adopt recommendations of the commission. They have only until tomorrow. It was passed on the 17th, so they had a 5-day window to create this plan for presentation to the governor. He has until the 30th to adopt it, or he can also reject it. If he rejects it, then local ordinances and local health orders will be effective. If he adopts it, they will all be superseded. So our May 4th deadline goes away. So we are going to most likely get a directive from the governor handed to us on May 1, and it'll be what it is. There was one bill that was mostly bad that's in the House that's not going forward. And it also was an effort to try to restrict local health authority power. And so I am glad that one appears to be dead. But it did have some good provisions for counties in there, such as flexibility using the promotional TRT balance and some relaxations on grandma deadlines. I haven't seen it so much in Grand County, but county, you know, across the state, counties have really been slammed with grandma requests. We've certainly had a number here, but I think that we've been able to respond to them. And so the county attorneys are also working on an alternative bill and working with UAC to try to get some of those more general miscellaneous provisions that could help counties still get passed. Our representatives told us that likely what they will do is recess the special legislative session rather than terminate it, and that they could essentially come back together at any time. And so we brought up TRT very generally with them, and they said they weren't sure that it would happen in this first round of the special legislative session, but it might happen later. And the flexibility would be all things. So it could be small business generation, it could be paying for payroll, you know, it would be broad is the expectation there. The one other thing I want to update you guys on is we have 6 jury trials set, and these are all on very big cases, very serious cases. There are homicide case, sex crime cases, and a couple of major drug crime cases. There's 2 of those 6 that we're hoping the federal government will take based on the large number of drugs that are involved, or one of the cases involves fraud in numerous states. But these are coming down the line. They're a big deal. Benjamin Balls, and he is the individual who's charged with the homicide of Vilsar and Israel Kami. He pled not guilty today, which quite frankly was a surprise for us. We have a 5-day trial set the first week of August so far. Not all the evidence is in yet, and so that he could end up changing his plea, but I want you guys to be aware of those big cases going forward when we discuss financial issues. That's it for me.
Hey, I have a question, Christina.
Yes.
In one of the legislative session calls I was on, it sounded to me like there were bills or ideas going forward that might give counties the flexibility to use tax funds. Okay, so any fund that did not require a vote of the citizens to put into effect.
Right.
So do you know where did that die? Or are we now just only talking about TRT? Okay.
No, and I'm sorry, those tax bills, I talk about TRT because that's our biggest tax fund of those types. So you're right, they would be in that same bill, and so far it's dead, but we're working on it. So it would be flexibility to use any of those tax funds. And right, non-voter approved taxes, so sales tax is not included. And also there's one constitutional tax that's not a deal for us. It's not a big deal. So, but all of that, we're still hoping to move forward, but so far it hasn't gained traction.
Okay, thank you.
That's it for me. Are there any other elected officials?
Yeah, so Quinn is, or I mean, looks like Mary, you're locked up. Quinn, do you want to go and give your report?
Yeah, sure. I just have one quick thing. The law regarding the June primary election has definitely changed. They're going to massively restrict in-person voting, no same-day registration. So we're going to be pushing as hard as we can in the clerk's office to try and get everybody to vote by mail. There's been some discussions about where our drop ballot box will be and how many days we'll have that available. But there is a very big push to eliminate all in-person voting. And at the clerk auditor's office, we get a lot of traffic on election, around the election. So we're going to try the best we can to try and get everybody to vote by mail and just simply send in the ballots. And things are still changing and not 100% set, but moving forward, we're really looking at doing as much as we can vote by mail. So that's about all I've got.
All right. So I'm going to start off with my report following up on SB 004, which is the bill that Christina was discussing just a little bit ago, and give an update on my communication with the health department and also the city manager and Dylan Cole, who's the lead medical professional over at the hospital. We're going to assume that we still have some capacity to develop local plans. And there are a number of reasons why we chose to move forward with a reopening of some aspects of the economy. A lot of that has to do with advanced and expanded testing that the hospital is now able to provide. They're able to test anybody with even a single mild flu or cold-like symptom. The health department also relayed to me that they are now feeling quite confident that they're able to engage in pretty aggressive contact tracing to go along with all of that testing that's expanded. The Moab Regional Hospital has also been able over the last month or more to expand their own capacity to treat COVID-19 cases. And it also appears that within Utah that our transmission rate is below 1, which is a good sign. And then, of course, within the Southeastern Utah Health District, our transmission rates are very low. I believe we've only got 6 positive cases within 3 counties at this point in time. In addition to that, we've got quite a substantial support network that's been established, which includes senior meal and home delivery to at-risk individuals, secured some quarantine and isolation shelters should we need it. We've developed some resources for financial hardship associated with housing, and some extensive local business support services, including local grants and assistance attaining a variety of relief provided by the state and federal government. We've got mental health services and child support services groups going. And so we're feeling quite, prepared at this point, much more so than we did 5 or 6 weeks ago when these issues first started. And it's for those reasons that we felt comfortable moving forward with a decision to begin to develop a plan to incrementally reopen certain low-risk aspects of the economy and then to gradually ramp things up as circumstances allow. And so just wanted to give a heads up on that. It may be the case that the governor tells us entirely what to do, but we're not making that assumption. We're going to make the assumption that we'll still be able to maintain local control and to develop our own plans. And so that's what we're doing. As Curtis indicated, he's involved with that group. Zachariah Levine, Elaine Gisler, Moab Chamber of Commerce, and others, I believe, will be involved in developing a plan to move forward. And hopefully the state will look favorably upon what we come up with and allow us to proceed. The other big issue that I've been working on is just dealing with revised revenue projections in association with the financial impacts on Grand County from COVID-19 and the shutting down of the economy. And based on my projections, we're looking at a revenue loss of about 23 to 30% in the general fund. And that's quite significant. Losing a quarter or more of your general fund's revenue is a serious issue. One of the stimulus packages did expand unemployment benefits. And so we've been encouraging department heads to furlough inessential employees through the end of that stimulus funding, which is July 31st, if possible. And that's probably one of the greatest opportunities that we have right now to save money and also ensure that our employees are taken care of through that period of time because of the expanded benefits that are available through the stimulus funding during that period of time. And so in the last couple of days, we've furloughed about 5 employees, and that's really just the beginning. I'm working with department heads to continue to see what we can do. I think everybody's going to have to realize that it's going to require that we accept a reduction in the level of service if we eliminate a lot of positions. And so I think that's just the reality of things. And it's also the reality of things that we are not going to have a lot of money. We're actually in serious risk of complete financial insolvency if we don't make major cuts to our budget. I believe that this loss of revenue is going to exceed the amount of money we have on reserve. And so it's actually going to be very essential that we make very significant cuts in order to maintain financial solvency. And so there is some good news. So the stimulus funding for our airport appears to be fairly substantial and may cover all of the airport's operational costs and debt service for 2020. So that'd be a big win for us in terms of being able to offset some of the losses that we're looking at. The TRCC is budgeted to cover about half of the airport's operating expenses, and the general fund is budgeted to cover the other half. And both of those revenue streams are going to be down significantly. So this stimulus funding that appears to be coming through for the airport, and I've got my fingers crossed, will hopefully cover those expenses, which will free up, general fund and what little TRCC funding we get this year for other much more needed uses. I'm also continuing to track FEMA funding and other stimulus funding as it comes through. It's at this point appears to mostly be dedicated for expenses directly related to coronavirus mitigation or response. And I haven't seen anything that's relatable to losses of revenue yet, which is where we're really going to take the biggest hit. But there may be, you know, some capacity to lobby the state or the federal government for some aid that's in relation to our loss of revenue associated with shutting down the economy, which is really going to be much more significant than our expenses so far anyway, relating to coronavirus mitigation. So I think that's all I've got so far. Anybody have any questions? Did you have something, Kurt?
Yeah, so just again, really quick, how many employees have been furloughed to date?
5 full-time employees.
Okay.
And that's within the last couple of days. We had an outstanding question for a while. We're self-insured for unemployment, and it took quite a while for anybody to give us an answer of whether or not we would be on the hook for the expanded unemployment insurance benefits. And if we were, it would have meant that if we furloughed somebody, that we would save no money, because we would essentially be paying the same amount. And so we recently were given the go-ahead to, or recently given the information that we would not be on the hook for the expanded unemployment benefits, even though we're self-insured. And so that kind of freed us up and gave us the confidence to go ahead with a furlough plan.
And in regards to the TRT fund balance, clear an email from Elaine, but I didn't see that. The TRT fund balance is approximately 700,000. Is it?
The TRT fund balance was about 740,000 at the beginning of 2019. And we're still in the process of closing 2019. And so but it appears to me that like they came in under budget on TRT by about 100,000. And so it's looking to me like their ending fund balance in 2019 is going to go down by about 100,000. Not quite that much, but I think they'll end with around 646,000. And we still pay about 50% of the unemployment insurance benefits. And so we're going to have to use that fund balance to cover the expenses that the Travel Council has already incurred in advertising before we pulled the plug on that, which is fairly substantial. And then, you know, also use that fund balance to carry us through the rest of the year in terms of paying unemployment benefits, and any salaries of Travel Council staff that stay on. I believe we've only got 2 Travel Council staff who are currently on right now, kind of running a skeleton crew. But, you know, how much of that fund balance is going to remain after we deal with the Travel Council's specific needs? You know, I'll have to do some projections on that. I'm not really sure, but I'm kind of afraid that they've already spent more than they're likely to bring in for the entire year, which means that they'll have to use their fund balance to cover those expenses in addition to salary, benefits, and unemployment insurance.
Okay, so you're anticipating the fund balance being pretty much entirely used up to get them through the year with their operating expenses?
It could be. I haven't done the full projection yet on what those costs are going to be. And of course, it depends a lot on if we see any kind of recovery in TRT. And so, you know, at this point, if we don't see a recovery in TRT, then yeah, it's going to be pretty ugly. And I think that we'll probably end up using most of the Travel Council's fund balance just to balance the Travel Council.
Yeah. Oh.
Any further questions?
Yeah, I just have one regards the departments that may have a position on paper approved but is not yet filled. Do we need to do some sort of a moratorium on new hires?
Okay. I would hope that department heads would understand that it's not the right time to be hiring anybody right now, but I've been working through the department sort of one at a time. It's really kind of difficult to just give a blanket budget cut statement across the board, quite frankly, because some positions are more essential than others. Some positions are providing statutory elements to our operation, and we're legally required to continue to perform those statutory requirements. And other positions are more discretionary. And so, and some of them have really lost a lot of their poignancy, quite frankly, in the face of the economy shutting down. And so, we do have to take into account the essential nature of each position in each department when we talk about the kind of budget cuts that we're requiring. And I think that, it's unfortunate for some, but if your position is more discretionary and not statutory, and your department has seen a significant reduction in workload as a result of all the economic shutdown, we're going to be asking for a greater budget cut from those departments.
Do you off the top of your head know approximately what payroll is without benefits and employee paid benefits, employer paid?
Not off the top of my head. I can run some reports on that. And the bills that you pay generally will have payroll costs, in them. And so, I think it's usually 200,000 to 300,000 every 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, we do not have department report, agency report. We are to presentations. Maddie, are you ready to give your presentation on the active transportation and trails?
Yep. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, let me get set up here. Are you guys seeing a slideshow?
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. So I'm going to give you guys an update on our progress on projects so far in 2020. And then I'm also going to give you guys a long overdue of, oh, can you guys hear me? A summary of our projects from 2019. And I have a lot to go over with you guys, and I want to keep this down to a reasonable time frame. So I'm going to present to you today, and then I'm also planning a presentation in the near future to go into depth more on certain items. But for today, I just want to focus on what we're doing right now and what we did in 2019. So to start out, I want to remind you guys what our department does. We are advised by the Grand County Trail Mix Committee, and we work with land management agencies such as the Bureau of Land Management and the Forest Service to design, build, and maintain non-motorized trails. And the committee that we're advised by, it has representatives from the land management agencies and then also from different non-motorized user groups, which are here, if you guys can see my mouse. Here's photos of some of our user groups. So we manage mountain biking trails, climbing and canyoneering access trails, hiking and running trails, and then we also support operations in the mountains for non-motorized snow activities like skiing. And I want to make a note about budget here, since that was a lot of the conversation preceding this, which is that we are in ongoing conversations with Chris Baird and Renee and Zachariah about how to enact reductions to our budget. Some of our budget is grant funded and also comes from cost share agreements with the Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management, but a portion is transportation tax revenue, and so we are seeing a reduction in that. So some updates. Our most notable project so far that we've completed this year was the Falcon Flow Trail, otherwise known as the Big Burrito Trail. And this project is one that had a lot of community excitement, community support around it, and also took about 4 years from proposal to completion. So it was a long process, and I want to thank the Bureau of Land Management, Sandflats, and the committee for all their hard work to make this happen. It was really worth it. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and we also received a lot of volunteer involvement on this project. We got over 1,800 hours of help on the project, which is the equivalent of about $45,000 in labor. For those of you who aren't familiar with the mountain bike trails, here's just a map to give you oriented on that project. The whole enchilada system saw about 23,000 visitors in 2018, and also supports the operations of many shuttle companies and local businesses in town. However, as use has increased, we were also seeing more search and rescue incidents on the Porcupine Rim because it is the last segment of a very long ride and it's extremely technical. And so this project was devised in order to provide a different option for the end of this route to try and cut down on those fairly intensive search and rescue operations that were often requiring a helicopter. So the Falcon Flow route, which is actually the first of 3 sections, will provide an alternate route that's more moderate and more easily accessible to get folks from the whole enchilada back into town. Can you all still hear me? Everyone just disappeared.
I can hear you.
Okay, great, thanks. Here's some photos of the trail on opening day. And here's just some public feedback we've gotten. So this is our social media page, and we got about 18,000 people reached, which is a record for us. And here's a photo of that excitement on opening day. So we have some current projects that are funded through the RTP grant, the Utah Recreational Trails Program grant, and through our BLM cost share agreement. We do have staff in the field currently training volunteers, but they're following new social distancing protocols. And so it's 1 staff member to 2 volunteers, and we're going to be probably phasing down this week. But I do want to thank Poison Spider Bicycles because they've had employees that have had reduced hours, and their employees have been volunteering on our trails the last few weeks on maintenance projects. So currently we have maintenance projects spread out in all of our different networks. I have some before and after pictures, and then this is a photo of the Poison Spider volunteers out on the trail today, actually. We also have 2 construction projects currently that are ongoing and are on grants, and so we're motivated to get them finished up. One is 2 trail extensions up at the Mag 7 network. This is going to complete a loop up there that will help mitigate some issues with conflict between motorized users and mountain bike riders. And then the Red Onion hiking trail is almost complete, and this is an addition in the Fisher Towers area that's also on a grant. Here's another photo of it. In 2019, quickly. And to give you a summary, so if you remember in 2019, we became a department. Before then, we were actually on the payroll of Canyonlands Natural History Association, and the committee managed its own budget, whereas now it's primarily an advisory committee for our department. We also applied to 2 major grants in 2019, and we're lucky enough to be awarded both of them. So last year we were awarded over $100,000 for non-motorized trail projects. We also bounced around between a few different office spaces as we tried to find a place in the county. And I want to say a big thank you to Andrea Brand for collaborating with us and including us in the new Sandflats modular unit. We are very excited to be moving in there in a few months. Last year, we constructed 3.5 trails for a total of 7 miles. I'm going to go into depth on each of these a little bit to give you guys kind of an idea of how our procedures and projects work. So the first ones I'm going to talk about are the Amosaback Connector Trail and the Abraxas Climbing Access Trail, which are part of the same project. So the problem we were trying to solve with these trails is that, see, can you guys see my mouse?
Yes, I
Okay.
can.
Thank you. So the Amosaback Network, which is on Cane Creek Road, as you can see here, here's the parking area for this very popular trail network. And then the trails are actually over here. And to get in between the two, the only access previously was to walk along Cane Creek Road. And so up here is a photo. It's a visiting school group that is going to go hiking on the trails, and they are walking along Cane Creek Road, and there's a line of UTVs going by, and they were going probably about 40 miles an hour. So basically what we have here is a safety issue where there's increased use on this trail network by mountain bikers and hikers and school groups, and then also increased traffic on Cane Creek Road, which was starting to become a safety hazard. So this project, if you see this line in green here, this is the trail that we built. So this provides a non-motorized single track connection that connects the parking area all the way over to the rest of the trail network, which is over here. Here's the connection. There's also a popular climbing area up here, and we were having the same issue with climbers were parking along the road on a blind corner over here to access the climbing. And so to move them over into the parking lot and get rid of that safety hazard with people parking along the road there, we built an extension on the mountain bike trail that leads climbers up to the climbing area so that everyone can park centrally in this nice large parking area here. Here's some photos of the build. So this just shows you some examples of how we go about the project. We've got a ramp structure here that actually took several days to build. We also had to design a bridge that could break away during flash floods that are common in that area. So you can see our design. And then here it is in real life, as well as examples from some of our volunteer days that we had out there. Another project we worked on was a reroute of the Chisholm Trail and the new Lasso Trail, which is up at Horse Thief, so up on 313. And this trail was necessary because the Chisholm Trail, which has existed for a few years, was in the way of an expansion of the Horse Thief campground. So as they expanded the campground, basically the trail got bulldozed and we had to reroute it. And then to make that area work more smoothly, we added in a little connection so that now you can ride a loop around the campground for people staying there. And so this top photo, this shows what sites typically look like when we arrive. And then these circles here are to kind of orient you so you can see the same tree in the different before and after photos. But this just shows examples of the type of construction we do to make these trails. And we had a fairly restricted area we could build for this because of that campground construction. And then the Falcon Flow Trail, we already discussed. We built about 80% of this in 2019, and then we finished it off in January and February of this year. Here's this image again. And then we also, assisted the Forest Service last year. We have an agreement with them where they provide us with funding to refund our labor. And so we helped them with two projects. One is now complete, the South Mountain Reroute, and one is still ongoing, the Squaw Springs Exit Trail, which they'll be continuing to build this year. In addition to all those trail builds, we also continually do trail maintenance and improvements to all the non-motorized trails. And I break our trail maintenance up into 3 different categories. So the first category I'm going to talk about is routine maintenance, which is routine repairs to drainage, delineation, replacing signage, eliminating illegal social trails. And so this can range from anything to kind of light work, like raking with volunteers, or this rock lining you can see kids working on in the top photo, to pretty technical advanced rock work. This section of trail washed out in a flash flood, and so we had to put a lot of rocks in there to complete the tread. We also get trail damage from flash floods and unfortunately from vandalism, as well as rockfall. So in this photo, you can see this big boulder that fell in Amossaback last year. This is actually one of 4 rockfall incidents that we went out and cleared. And these are high priority for us because occasionally the trail is completely impassable, which is a safety hazard. And then even if it is passable, it creates a lot of damage from people trying to get around these obstacles. So here's a before and after photo from that. And then last year, we unfortunately also experienced some vandalism on our kiosks. And so we want to respond to that quickly too, just so that it doesn't continue. Finally, we also occasionally have to do reroutes similar to the Horse Thief campground reroute, where there's construction or some project that affects an existing trail. So in addition to Horse Thief campground last year, the county and BLM, they built a retaining pond up on Jackson Street. So in this photo, you can see this is 400 East right here, and then Jackson, and where this giant retaining area is where the trail used to be. So these are photos of after we rerouted the trail to retain access so that this is still a trailhead and that locals from town can access that trail. We also have been lucky enough to get 3 grants now for education and outreach. Education and outreach is important to us because it not only engages the local community, but it also cuts down on our maintenance costs. So we launched a mud report the last few years, which is a winter report on trail conditions. When people ride the trails when they're wet or muddy, it creates a lot of damage that we have to repair in the spring. And so we started having reports online that advise people what trails they can ride that are dry and what trails they should stay away from. And this is now in the local newspapers during the winter. On Discover Moab, and then also the bike shops are linked to it. So the bike shops where they're renting bikes can direct people to which trails they should ride and which ones they shouldn't. We can also post educational information like the ride straight through puddles rather than around, and promote our volunteer days. The last few years, we've also worked to improve our trailhead signage. So currently we have trailhead signage that explains about biological soil crust, and then also best practices for riders, minimum impact practices or leave no trace practices. And we did a survey last year that indicates this is a pretty important area to focus on. Of all the visitors surveyed, specifically visitors, we found that the #1 place they were getting this type of information was from trailhead signage, even before the National Park Visitor Center and the internet. E-bikes are also a new technology that are starting to impact the non-motorized trails. And so our operations coordinator, Tyson Swayze, spent a lot of time last year doing some research and coming up with recommended route information so that we can direct e-bike users to appropriate areas rather than just saying no, no, no to the non-motorized trails all the time, because currently they are classified as motorized. And so we're hoping that getting this information out will just help direct people on where to go. And the Travel Council printed about 2,000 brochures for us to put in bike shops, and then also put it on their Discover Moab website. So a big thank you to them for their help. With the help of a grant, we also launched a pilot trail ambassador program. A lot of communities are starting to have these types of programs where they have trained volunteers who are out with some sort of uniform or t-shirt, and they're acting as extra eyes and ears on the trails for safety. And then in our case, also spreading that educational information, because we really want to cut down on user-created damage and maintenance costs from people riding off trail. So on the right, you can see our trail ambassador giving some information to folks who are on rental bikes. And then also we've been having a presence at various events that are held on the trail to provide information. Community involvement was very strong in 2019. So as you can read there, we had over 2,000 hours of volunteer help, which is equivalent to 2 full-time employees working for over 7 months of the year, which is pretty much our field season. We also received over $30,000 in donations and company sponsorship for volunteer days. So we had support from Specialized Bicycles, Ibis Bicycles, Outer Bike, as well as various restaurants who donated food to help promote volunteer days. Here's some photos of our volunteers. In addition to all this field work, we also are involved in planning and collaboration on different projects that involve non-motorized trails as well as active transportation, meaning, pedestrian and cyclists in town. We started our non-motorized master plan update. The original non-motorized master plan was done in 2011, and so it's overdue. So last year we started with a public outreach phase where we received 552 responses, and 60% of that was from visitors and from residents, and 40% from visitors. And so I'm going to go more into what we learned from that data in a future presentation, but it will inform like our next phases in the update to this document. We also assisted the Trail Mix Committee with several proposals of trails that haven't been built yet. So there's one hiking trail in the pipeline, as well as 3 equestrian trails that are approved but not yet built. We also have been working with BLM engineers to create a boardwalk on Jackson Trail. This is a trail that has frequent flooding, and some recommendations to the Forest Service about improvements to the whole enchilada network, as well as cooperating with the Mill Creek Community Collaborative. So getting briefly into upcoming projects, we've been working with the City of Moab and received a Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant to create an urban bike park. And so this bike park is currently scheduled to be installed at the beginning of June. There's definitely a lot up in the air currently with contractors and if that scheduled date is still possible. But this trail will be at this location right near downtown. And here's some concepts if you guys can see that. And so while we're phasing out staff for the season due to budget revisions, this is all funded by a grant, and so hopefully this project will continue. Are there any questions from you guys?
Questions, anyone? Very thorough report. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have a question, Maddie.
Sure.
That was awesome. I learned a ton. And I'm curious how you can track users on the trails.
So the BLM has counters on some of the trail networks. And so we get data from them. For example, I just looked at the data from the Brands Network, and it gets about 40,000 visits annually. And then there's also, someone's actually doing their master projects on the whole enchilada. So that's how we have data for that, which was it's between 23 and 24,000 for that area.
Oh, great. Thank you.
This is Zachariah chiming in. Maddie and Tyson have also utilized data from Strava, which is an app that trail users will track their rides and runs and hikes on. And you can get access to that data to get a sense of user mobility.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Maddie.
Thanks all.
This to general business and action items, discussions and considerations. C, approving UDOT's Technical Planning Assistance Program co-op agreement. Zachariah Levine and Bill Jackson.
Okay, Bill is on the call. So this technical planning agreement is for the joint or unified city and county transportation master plan. So this is essentially a pass-through for the county. We successfully applied for planning grant money with UDOT for a $150,000 project where Grand County would put in $25,000 of local match, and the city of Moab would put in $15,000 of local match for a total of $40,000. And UDOT is providing $110,000 in grant money. I say it's a pass-through agreement because in effect, we will be following local procurement policy. and then basically passing on reimbursement requests to UDOT. So as soon as this document is signed, which I believe it is at this point, we will need to proceed with establishing an interlocal agreement with the city of Moab to transfer their contribution to the local match.
I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the agreement with the Technical Planning Assistance Program Co-op agreement with UDOT to complete a joint or unified transportation master plan with the city of Moab and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Second.
Motion by Evan Clapper, seconded by Curtis Wells. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote.
Wait, Mary, I do have a question. I just couldn't get my mute off fast enough. On page 56, it talks about a brief one-page progress report. Will the county be responsible for that, Zachariah?
Yeah, we'll take the lead on that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, sorry, I'll call for a vote. Gabriel Wojtek,
Aye.
Greg Halliday, you're on mute. Evan Clapper, Curtis Wells,
Aye.
Jalen Hawks,
Yes.
Mary McGann, yes, passes unanimously. We are now on D, approving 2 council members to the Southeastern Utah Regional Transportation Plan Stakeholder Group, Belle Jackson and Chris Baird.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, as you know, the council approved and passed the Southeastern Utah Regional Transportation Plan Cooperative Agreement with UDOT, and essentially we have a steering committee and then a stakeholders committee to help move this process along and obviously to get as much participation as we can and ideas and things of this nature. And we need 2 council people to be on this stakeholders committee or group or committee, and that's about it.
I'll just add that I had sent out an email after our last stakeholder committee or our project management committee meeting, which is primarily staff that's involved with the RTP. And to just jog everyone's memory, there were a few emails in support of Gabriel Wojtek and Evan Clapper serving on that committee. And I will just add that I think the timeline for this planning effort is likely to go, into early 2021. So while council members who are serving in their, last term or up for re-election, are not prohibited from participating, that is, one consideration. So.
Do I have
If you're in that
motion?
circumstance, but you want to participate, just commit for the long haul.
Do I have a motion?
But we need a motion to appoint 2 council members right now.
Yes, Gabriel and
I'll move to appoint Gabriel Wojtek and Councilmember Clapper.
motion by Curtis Wells. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Evan Clapper. Discussion.
Looking
It would
forward
be
to
an
it.
honor.
Yay.
Real quickly, before you
Okay.
vote and move on, I just want to let you know, we will have a stakeholder meeting on the 29th, so a
Yeah.
week from tomorrow.
Thanks for the reminder.
Roll call vote. Gabriel Wojtek,
Aye.
Greg Halliday. Is that an aye?
I think so.
Emmett Clapper?
Yes.
Curtis Wells?
Aye.
Jalen Hawks?
Yes.
Mary McGann, yes. Passes unanimously. We are now on approving the Villa Mora HDO. Zachariah Levine.
Hi, so I don't have any big presentations planned for today. You held a public hearing at the April 7th County Council meeting to solicit public comment on the Via Mayor HDHO development proposal. I want to clarify that although you received several public comments referencing a 79 unit project, the project in front of you is not a 79 unit project. It is a 36 unit project, 35 of which would be, or 36 of which would be deed restricted. So they are proposing to deed restrict more than the minimum 80% requirement. To clarify, we are at 270 of 300 HDHO units that can be approved under the unit-based sunset clause in section 4.6. So I'm sure that most of you are aware of that. And other than those preliminary comments, I'm happy to answer questions that you might have.
Could
Question?
you recap the reasoning behind the Planning Commission sending an unfavorable recommendation?
Sure. So it was a 4-3 split vote. So it was definitely not unanimous. But the reasons cited for those who voted in opposition to the project or to send an unfavorable recommendation included neighborhood fit and compatibility with the surrounding area, and the just nature of the development, but neighborhood compatibility seemed to be the primary reason. There were also concerns related to traffic being generated on Spanish Valley Drive, you know, in whether folks were going to stay on Spanish Valley Drive to get, you know, between their place of residence and downtown Moab entirely, or access 191 from one of the main east-west connectors. That was one of the concerns cited as well. I will note, you know, that there are some fairly dense projects in the vicinity of this proposed project that are also quite sizable and dense, but they are all on the west side of Spanish Valley Drive rather than the east side. And so, you know, in my reading of the Planning Commission, you know, there was a determination that, you know, the neighborhood character or compatibility of a dense multifamily project was very different when looking at the east side versus the west side of Spanish Valley Drive. So again, that's Planning Commission, staff's, you know, interpretation of Planning Commission's recommendation.
That, thanks.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion. Hearing none, the motion fails for lack of a motion. We are now to approval of Hawk subdivision HDHO, Zachariah Levine.
So similar approach here, no presentation planned. You had a public hearing on April 7th, solicit public comment. This is a four lot subdivision proposed. It's on Plateau Drive. And there are some existing units there. So this wouldn't create a whole lot of new housing, but it would increase the supply of deed restricted housing because each of the lots created by this development would be deed restricted in accordance with the high density housing overlay requirements.
Questions? Evan?
I would move to approve the ordinance applying the high density housing overlay District H, or it's District 5, the parcels located at 2095 South, 2120 South, and 2130 South Plateau Drive, subject to the conditions specified in the ordinance regarding adding required notes to the master plan, the associated master plan, the associated development agreement, and deed restriction, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Motion by Evan Clapper. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Gabriel Wojtek. Discussion. Any discussion? Okay, I will call for a vote. Mary McGann, yes. Gabriel Wojtek,
Aye.
Evan Clapper,
Yes. Yes.
Curtis Wells,
Yes.
did I call you?
You did.
Jalen Hawks,
Recusing myself.
Greg Halliday. Aye. Motion passes 5-1. Jalen Hawks recusing herself. We are now to approving the Desert Storm HDHO, Zachariah Levine.
Okay, this is a 5-lot high density housing overlay application. Once again, no presentation here, just available to answer questions. There wasn't much in the way of public comment on this one.
Questions?
Chair.
Seeing none. Oh, who had a question?
I just would, I would love to put a motion on the floor.
Thank you, yes.
I move to approve the ordinance applying the high density housing overlay District 5, HDHO 5 to the parcels located at 2691 Desert Road, subject to the conditions specified in the ordinance in regards to updating the master plan title and adding required notes, the associated updated master plan, the associated development agreement, and deed restriction, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Motion by Gabriel Wojtek. Do I have a second? Seconded by Greg Halliday. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Mary McGann, yes. Gabriel Wojtek,
Aye.
Evan Clapper,
Yes. Yes.
Curtis Wells,
Yes.
Jalen Hawks,
I suppose I'll recuse myself on this one too.
okay. Greg Halliday. Yes. Motion passes 5-1. Jalen Hawks recusing herself. Okay, we are now on approving proposed resolution amending the bylaws of the Noxious Weed Control Board. Tim Higgs. He was here a minute ago. Yeah, there he is. Tim, are you there? Tim?
Mary, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Thank you, Jaylen.
I move to approve the proposed amended bylaws of the Grand County Noxious Weed Control Board and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Motion by Jaylen Hawks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Evan Clapper. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Mary McGann, yes. Gabriel Wojtek,
Aye.
Evan Clapper,
Yes.
Curtis Wells,
Yes.
Jaylen Hawks,
Yes.
Greg Halliday. Did we lose Greg? Greg Halliday? Yes. Motion passes unanimously. We are now on item I, approving of 3 council members to the Arches Hotspot Regional Coordinating Committee. Council Member Wells.
Okay, if everyone's had a chance to read the agenda summary and the city's ordinance that created the committee is, you know, it's pretty simple and straightforward. So essentially where we're at is, you know, the city has directed staff to renegotiate their cooperating agreement with UDOT. And in the resolution that they passed to direct staff to do that, they kind of outlined a path forward to identify alternative projects and recommend them to UDOT staff and the Transportation Commission. And so upon passing that resolution, they created this committee as a legislative action. It is a city committee. They did give us equal representation on the committee with city council members. The way the ordinance reads is that they appoint 4 members and we appoint 3. One of their 4 members is going to be a citizen from the business community, and they're going through a process right now to notice that and give people an opportunity to apply. And so the idea is we'll appoint our members tonight, communicate who those 3 are to the city, and they've already scheduled a meeting, our first meeting for Thursday of this week. UDOT would like to have the list finalized by the end of this month, so we need to work pretty quick. We do have until September to ultimately recommend the new projects, but they would like us to, you know, to get right to it. And I think that, you know, that can be accomplished. We've already got a project priority list from previous works that we'll probably spend the first meeting updating, adding any new projects to it. And potentially hold a second meeting before the end of the month to kind of finalize that. And then we will continue to, I guess from there, flush out those projects. The county council does have, according to the ordinance that created the committee, the county council does have the authority to approve the recommendations set by the committee to the UDOT board. So the county council will, in addition to regular updates during council reports, have an opportunity to vote on what projects are recommended before that September deadline. And so I feel pretty comfortable with it. I had envisioned a kind of a true joint committee, but you know, the city, they do have a contract with UDOT that does entitle our community to the $10 million. You know, there is some strategic wisdom and you know, I think an appropriate level of sophistication of keeping that agreement in place until the committee ultimately decides to go another direction, and then they can renegotiate that cooperating agreement accordingly. So I feel good about it. There is a sense of urgency, you know, that we're all feeling from UDOT. You know, they're understanding that we need another round to get this thing right, but they want us to hop right to it. So so with that, Jalen and I have worked on this quite a bit. We've got a lot of ownership in the process. And Evan has been a contributor to in the realm of transportation and UDOT issues. And so with speaking with Jalen, would like to have him on that committee with us. And then I also think if Evan's got one foot in the hotspot process and another foot in kind of this regional transportation planning effort, I think that continuity is helpful. So I like this roster, and I think it makes sense. So with that, Madam Chair, I would like to move to approve council members Hawks, Evan Clapper, and Curtis Wells as the Grand County appointments to the City of Moab Arches Hotspot Region Coordinating Committee, and authorize Council Administrator Chris Baird to forward the names of these council members to the city after a passage by the county council.
Second.
Mary, did we lose you? I
I
just
didn't
have
have
a comment. I just have a comment. Thanks to Curtis for all of his work on this. And I am very excited to move forward, and I would be honored to be on this committee. I think it's got huge potential. I like the projects that are potentially on the table. There are a multitude, and I think we can come up with something that most will be happy with. There will always be one or two that won't be, but I'm very excited and positive about moving forward in this.
Thank you, Jaylen. Any further discussion?
I just want to add that Bill Jackson and Zachariah were very involved in the original process. And I think council is anticipating their involvement, in this second chapter. So want to make sure that they're aware and there's an invitation to contribute. And they're also wearing the regional transportation hats. And so I think it makes sense for them to be as involved as they can.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Mary McGann, yes. Gabriel Wojtek,
Aye.
Evan Clapper,
Yes.
Curtis Wells,
Yes.
Jaylen Hawks,
Yes.
Greg Halliday. Yes, passes unanimously. We are now on item J, approving plat correction lots 5, 6, 7 Spanish Valley Estates, Zachariah Levine.
Hi, this is Mila. I'm actually
gonna Mila's gonna take this one.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mila.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see the plat. Let's see. Hopefully this will work. Actually might not let me share my screen, unfortunately. Oh, no. I'm on one of these Chromebooks and I'm not able to actually choose another screen other than Zoom. So I'll just trust that you have this in your packet. You can see this is a image of lot 5, 6, and 7 Spanish Valley Estates. What's happening here is that there was a plat that was incorrectly recorded, vacating those lot lines of lot 6 and 6.1. They are here being appropriately vacated basically. This is just a plat correction. This is actually what the county parcel map already looks like because of the include recorded plat. So it's not effectively changing anything. It's just cleaning up some filing errors.
Mary, I would like to make a motion.
Thank you, Jaylin.
I move to adopt the resolution approving plat corrections for lots 5, 6, and 7 of Spanish Valley Estates and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Motion
Second.
by Jaylin Hawks, seconded by who? Oh, is that you, Curtis? Who seconded? Curtis, okay. Motion by Jaylin Hawks, seconded by Curtis. Discussion. Call for a vote. Mary McGann, yes. Gabriel Wojtek,
Aye.
Evan Clapper,
Yes.
Curtis Wells,
Yes.
Jaylin Hawks,
Yes.
Greg Halliday. Yes. Okay, passes unanimously. We are now on adopting a resolution, adopting a proposed resolution indicating that Grand County will not seek to impose a tax under Title 59 for the funding of the botanical, cultural, recreational, and zoological organizations or facilities. However, that the city of Moab may seek to impose such a tax. Chris Baird.
Joel, do you want to cover this one?
Yes.
Oh.
So glad to be here. Back in February, the city provided notice to the county after we asked our council to vote on whether or not we would want to go forward with a RAP tax. A RAP tax is a recreation, arts, and parks tax, and it's funded through sales tax. This is basically the only tourist-based tax that the city has not implemented up to this point. And so we are looking to implement this tax as 0.1% on sales of goods. It does not include groceries, it's only prepared foods. And so it falls into those same sales tax that we tend to drive our economies off of and what the city tends to drive its books off of the sales tax of the tourist industry. So when we provided this notice back in February, the code requires that within 60 days, the county either gives us a letter of intent that it is going to put this on the next general election and that it will be instituted countywide, or they have to pass a resolution stating that they're not intending to do that and that it would be the city's right at that point to go forward and put it on the next general election. And if the majority of residents pass that, then we could implement that RAP tax, and the money would be earholed for those things, those recreation, arts, and parks uses that the city provides. And if it was on a county level, that the county provided as well. So that's what we're looking to do. I'm just trying to maximize the tax we're able to collect off the tourist industry, and we'll have a lot of legwork to do in order to make sure that the general public here in Moab knows that this is a tax that's going to be based off of basically the tourist coming to town, and that's we're trying to maximize that. And I'm just looking for action from the council on whether or not they want to pass this resolution allowing the city to go forward, or provide us notice that it's their intent to do this countywide at the next election.
Thank you, Joel. Questions?
I will make a motion, Mary.
Thank you. I was getting ready to ask, so somebody make a motion. Okay, yes.
I
Jaylin?
move to approve the attached resolution indicating that Grand County will not seek to impose a tax under Title 59 for the funding of botanical, cultural, recreational, and zoological organizations or facilities. However, that the city of Moab may seek to impose such a tax and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you, Jaylin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Evan Clapper. Discussion. I'll call for a vote. Mary McGann, yes. Gabriel Wojtek,
Aye.
Evan Clapper.
Yes.
Curtis Wells,
Aye.
Jaylin Hawks,
Yes.
Greg Halliday.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Consider, consideration for adoption of a resolution of the County Council of Grand County, Utah, authorizing and approving the execution and delivery of a master lease agreement by and between the county and the Municipal Building Authority of Grand County, Utah, authorizing the execution and delivery of ground lease agreement, authorizing the insurance and sale by the authority of not more than $3,600,000 aggregate principal amount of lease revenue bond series 2020 and related matters. Chris Baird.
All right, so this is, yeah, and we've also got Alex Buxton, who's the Vice President of Zion's Public Finance with us, who serves as our Municipal Services Advisor. This is part of the process for closing on the nearly $3.6 million bond that was awarded to our Municipal Building Authority for the EMS Special Service District's new space that they will be working up on the hill there where the old senior center is. We'll actually maintain ownership of the land and also the infrastructure itself. And so the county council does actually play a role in interacting with the Municipal Building Authority in making this bond possible. And I'll turn it over to Alex, and he can go into maybe a little bit more detail on what we're doing tonight.
Great, thanks, thanks, Chris. Can everybody hear me okay? I think Chris, you summarized it very well. The process that we are going through for this new EMS building is identical to the process that some of you may remember that the county went through when we did the municipal lease revenue bond for the airport terminal expansion a few years ago. So it's the same structure that we used back on that project. As Chris mentioned, the Municipal Building Authority was able to secure about a $3.6 million loan. It was $3,548,000 loan. It's a zero interest loan over 30 years. And they also were able to secure a $1.182 million grant. So a lot of credit needs to go to Andy Smith and his team that presented to the CIB to secure that funding. Bond Council has prepared the resolutions, 2 resolutions, one to be adopted with the county council and another resolution that will be adopted as trustees of the municipal lease or the MBA, the Municipal Building Authority. And so if there aren't any questions regarding the financing side, which I'm happy to answer, I'd like to maybe see if either Randy Larson or somebody from Gilmore Bell is on the line to walk us through the resolution, since they drafted those resolutions as the county's and the Municipal Building Authority's bond council. If they're not on the line, I'm happy to step into that role and walk you through the resolutions. Is anybody on the line from Gilmore and Bell? If not, I'll go ahead and recommend that well, let me ask, are there any questions on the financing portion of this?
Are there any questions?
Yes, Mary. Who's
Great.
gonna be paying this bond off?
So Greg, we will form a sublease agreement with the EMS Special Services District, and according to that agreement, they will pay the annual debt on the bond.
And there isn't any interest?
No.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, that was an award from the community or the CIB community
Impact
from the
Board.
community.
Okay, I got you.
And what is the
And it
status
came,
of that? What is the status of that sublease agreement? Because I haven't seen anything yet.
I'm not sure that it's been drafted yet. It's at this point, we're at the point of establishing the parameters for the closing master resolution. And so I did request that Gilmore Bell include reference to the sublease within the documents. And so that will be drafted as a component of the final closing documents. So when we get to the MBA part of the agenda, we'll be establishing or approving our parameters resolution, which sets the constraints that the master resolution can close and be finalized under. And you know, maybe Alex can go further into that, but the sublease agreement will be drafted and incorporated into the final closing documents, is my understanding. Is that right, Alex?
Yes, that will certainly be the case. Although the county's MBA is issuing the bonds, and that's the way the CIB approved the loan, is through the county's MBA authority, that you're right, that agreement between the county and the district will certainly be in place before we close on the actual financing. The timing of this to occur, the draft calendar that I've put together would estimate a closing sometime around the end of May. I think right now I've got it slated for the 27th of May. This resolution, again, only allows the process to start. It will call for a notice of bonds to be issued that will be published in the newspaper, as well as calls for a public hearing to be held, which we currently have scheduled to be at the May 19th council meeting would be a public hearing. And then the bond closing would occur a couple of weeks after that point in time.
And I also want to point out that I requested that because this is a design assist and construction type of RFP, that any overage of the gross maximum cost or the guaranteed maximum cost would be also a component of the agreement with the EMS Special Services District, that they would have to pick up any overage above and beyond the award given by the CIB in combination of the loan and the grant. So the Grand County wouldn't bear any risk associated with overages on the project. And the MBA will still have to provide security to the CIB for the debt payment, but because this is a lease revenue bond, the security itself is ultimately the infrastructure. And so if it comes down to the point of not being able to pay the annual debt, the MBA could either opt to pay the debt themselves or to turn over the improvements to the bondholder. Is that right, Alex? For a lease revenue
correct.
bond?
Yes. Works similar like a mortgage on a home. The security interest would be in the property itself, the building itself.
Well, is it the property or the building?
The building.
Okay.
Yeah, because in this case, the property is not a component of the agreement with the CIB. And so had we included that as a component of the project, then it probably would be considered a part of the project, but we never did. And so it was approved with kind of property in kind contribution.
If there aren't any more questions related to the financing itself, my recommendation would be to move forward in adopting or making a motion to adopt first the resolution as a county council. And if that gets approved, then now would be an appropriate time to convene as the trustees of the municipal building authority and adopt a similar resolution for the moving forward of the parameters resolution as an MBA, and then you could reconvene as a county council and finish the rest of the council meeting. That would be my recommendation.
And I see a copy of the ground lease in our packet, but was there a copy of the resolution for the council on? It's in the MBA.
It's in the MBA packet, I believe.
So, Mr. Administrator, is that something where we'd have to suspend this meeting and open another meeting?
Well, you can if you want, and it might be helpful for Alex, and so he doesn't have to hang on the line through the end of the meeting. But we could recess the county council meeting, call to order the MBA, which is slated for 5 p.m. or after, so we're good on the timeline. Take care of the MBA business, and then reconvene the county council meeting.
Madam Chair, I would move that we recess our regular county council meeting to open the municipal building authority.
Approve, however, Evan, you have to approve in this council meeting the county council resolution.
Right.
And after that, then you recess, open the MBA, and then approve the parameters resolution.
So L is for the ground lease.
So we need a motion to approve the attached resolution of the County Council of Grand County, Utah, authorizing and approving the execution and delivery of a master lease agreement by and between the county and the Municipal Building Authority of Grand County, Utah, authorizing the execution and delivery of ground lease agreement, authorizing the issuance and sale by the authority of not more than $3,600,000 aggregate principal amount of lease revenue bond series 2020, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Motion by Curtis Wells, seconded by Jalen Hawks. Discussion. I'll call for a vote. Mary McGann, yes. Gabriel Wojtek,
Aye.
Evan
Yes.
Clapper,
Yes.
Curtis Wells,
Aye.
Jalen Hawks,
Yes.
Greg Halliday.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
My motion was still out there. Can I get a second?
So wait a minute.
Okay.
Since we do have this procedure where we allow a second wave of citizens to comment at 6, we probably ought to just see if there's anybody there before we adjourn.
Is there anyone, are there any citizens to be heard? Thank you, Jalen. Okay, there aren't any citizens to be heard, so we should entertain Evan's motion to go into recess. Evan made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jalen. Discussion. See none. Mary McGann, yes. Gabriel Wojtek,
Yes.
Evan Clapper,
Yes.
Curtis Wells,
Yes.
Jalen Hawks,
Yes.
Greg Halliday.
Aye.
Motion passes. We will now call to order the Grand County Municipal Building Authority special meeting. The time is 6:10. Approval of minutes. Oh, yes, members present, excuse me, thank you. Members present, Mary McGann, Evan Clapper, Curtis Wells, Jalen Hawks, Greg Halliday, Clerk, Auditor Quinn Hall, County County Assistant.
That guy in there.
We've already moved to the manager. Curtis Wells and Christina Sloan, our county attorney, Alex Burton of Zions Bank. Okay, approval of minutes.
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you, Gabriel.
I move to approve the minutes from April 7th, 2020 for the Municipal Building Authority meeting.
Motion by Gabriel Wojcik. Do I have a second? Second by Evan Clapper. Discussion.
Yes, I have something. I'm just trying to get the packet open. So under discussion, it has Andy Smith commenting that, oh, never mind. It's after the motion, which carried 6-0. So it's on the second page, I believe, of the minutes. Yes. It has Andy Smith as saying the RFP is for a contractor can now come in and help us finish the plans. I didn't think that was quite what Andy said, so I took the liberty of reaching out to him. And he said that he believes what he was saying is the RFP is for the selection of a contractor to help move the design towards completion. So I would like to see that change made to the minutes. So I don't know if a new motion needs to be made to approve as amended. Sorry, I didn't get that out to the appropriate people sooner, but I didn't get that till late this afternoon.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended by Councilperson Hawks.
And I'll second.
Okay, so that would be the substitute motion made by Gabriel Wojcik and seconded by Jalen Hawks. Discussion. Mary McGann, yes. Evan Clapper?
Yes.
Curtis Wells?
Aye.
Jalen Hawks?
Yes.
Greg Halliday?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, we are to action item, discussion and consideration. Consideration for a resolution of the Municipal Building Authority of Grand County, Utah, authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than $3,600,000 aggregate principal amount of lease revenue bonds, Series 2020, and related matters. Chris Baird and Alex Burton.
One quick second. I'm sorry, Chair. I just wanted to say that I did, for the record, I did want to vote yes on that last motion. I didn't get a chance to get in there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
No problem.
thank you. Okay,
So
Chris,
item B, this is the MBA's side of the bond closing documents and agreements. This is passing the parameters resolution. Again, these parameters resolutions are set up to set the constraints that will be allowed for the closing documents and the master resolution to follow. And if the master resolution follows these parameters, then it will only really require the approval of the county attorney and clerk auditor to move forward with the closing process. And so that's what's before you here. Most of the exhibits are showing the form, not the final versions of the agreements that will be a component of the closing documents. And just to remind everybody, I did request within this parameters resolution that Gilmore Bell include provisions for the sublease with EMS Special Service District, as well as protection with regard to the guaranteed maximum cost and any overages being the responsibility of the EMS Special Services District. Any questions from anybody?
I have some questions. When you say form, so because those safeguards aren't in there, and in looking back through the ground lease that I'm just having a chance to review for the first time, it does secure the property, not the improvements. So these are all forms that we're gonna revise before closing, or the ground lease you guys just approved as a council is essentially the form.
Alex, can you answer that?
I don't have those documents in front of me. Certainly we can amend whatever needs to be amended prior to our closing. We just need to have Gilmore and Bell amend that, but I would believe what's in front of you now is what we are moving ahead with, unless otherwise revised later on.
Okay, well, it seems like we need some sort of language in there. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you, Chris. It sounds like there's already some county attorney review. We didn't, as far as I heard, approve in the council meeting a similar final review for that ground lease and the deed of trust that's attached to it that secures the property, not the improvements. So I don't know if we need to revisit that or if there's enough flexibility in this process. I'm new to this bond process.
All right, yeah, I guess we'll have to probably consult with Gilmore Bell on that question.
That's something that too we can have as part of the discussion on the May 19th meeting, where we're going to have a public hearing on this project. Again, nothing locks us into anything at this point with this resolution. It's just a matter of beginning or authorizing the notice of bonds to go to the newspaper, which triggers a 30-day contestability period. And then we would close the bonds sometime after that 30 days. So I would think we could get some clarity certainly on any of these questions, at or prior to our public hearing on May 19th.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about the ground lease that the council just approved?
Well, I think that it's required, isn't it, Alex, in terms of allowing the NBA to proceed with the project on county property.
Right, that's true.
Right. And the ground lease isn't as much of a concern, but the deed of trust attachment secures the property in the event of default. So if the CIB is willing to take security and improvements alone, we need to revise that.
All right, yeah, well, I guess, and because I mean, I think in reality, it is, as I spoke, the property itself was never proposed as being a part of the project or any kind of in-kind contribution. And so maybe, I think that a lot of what we're looking at is boilerplate loose revenue bond documents. And so maybe we need to speak with Gilmore Bell to say this is a little bit different situation. In this particular instance, we did not donate any county property to the project, and the project was not approved with any county property, an in-kind donation or contribution to the project. So I'm it looks like it's maybe, you know, the result of kind of using boilerplate lease revenue bond documents, and maybe they need to be tweaked some. But
Okay.
this process, we won't close until you're comfortable, and your signature is really one of the main ones that's going to be required before we can close, and this is ultimately approved. And so we'll have to be working closely with you, Christina, as we go through to make sure that everything's in the form that it needs to be.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, you that you feel comfortable with keeping the ball rolling tonight, and getting those revisions in place before finalizing it?
If that was to me, I feel comfortable.
And let me just ask a question. If in fact we go back to the CIB and the property itself, along with the improvements, were part of the authorization, does that change the ability to move ahead with the bond issue? Because I know oftentimes with these MBA bonds that that is part of the security that CIB is taking. So I just want to be clear on whether or not that's a deal breaker from moving forward with the CIB zero interest loan or not.
Well, I mean, it would definitely increase the county's exposure if we were with a situation where the EMS Special Services District was not able to meet the annual debt obligation, and neither were we able to loan them the money or defer their payment and pay it ourselves, which would put us in a position of losing property. And so it may be an issue.
Gotcha. I don't know the answer to that. Again, we want to go back and review with CIB what their expectation is, as well as talk with Gilmore Bell. I just wanted to bring that up as a question.
Well, I mean, as far as I understand, and I don't know, you know, that we've officially agreed, but in my estimation, going through this process, the county council has sort of given the go-ahead for EMS Special Service District to make use of this property indefinitely for the purpose of emergency medical services. And so, you know, to a degree, and I don't, you know, I think we're limited to a 99-year lease or however long, you know, we're allowed to extend a lease. And I'm not sure what the what the duration of the will entail, if we'll go beyond the duration of the annual debt. But I was under the impression that the council was, you know, leaning towards not necessarily giving the property away, but indefinitely allowing us to use for emergency medical services. But anyway, it's, you know, beyond that point, I think that we should find out if the CIB is going to require security on the property and the improvements, and further, whether or not they can actually truly be disassociated from one another.
Yeah, the reality is if they foreclose on the improvements, we've got a big problem with the property anyway.
Yeah. Well, I guess we can find that out. But I know, you know, for sure that the property was never presented as being a donation to the project.
Okay. Well, let's follow up. Let's have a call with Gilmore Bell tomorrow, Chris, and talk through that. And then if we need to follow up with CIB, we can certainly do that as well.
Okay.
In that case, if everyone's comfortable, I would make a motion to approve the attached resolution of the Municipal Building Authority of Grand County, Utah, authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than $3,600,000 aggregate principal amount of lease revenue bonds, Series 2020, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents pending the county attorney's review.
Motion by Evan Clapper. Do I have a second? Seconded by Curtis Wells. Discussion. Call for a vote. Mary McGann, yes. Gabriel Wojcik,
Yes.
Evan Clapper,
Yes.
Curtis Wells,
Yes.
Jalen Hawks,
Yes.
Yes.
Greg Halliday.
Aye.
Passes
yes.
Passes unanimously. There's no public hearing, there's no future considerations, no closed session. This meeting we have completed the agenda, so this meeting of the Grand County Municipal Building Authority special meeting is adjourned. We will re-enter our regular county council meeting.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you hopefully I'll see you in person on the 19th of May.
Hopefully. We'll see.
Thanks.
That would be nice. We are now at the consent agenda items. Approving a letter of support for the Community Rebuilds USDA Rural Development 523 Technical Assistant Grant application. Approving letter of support for Ride with Respect grants application, rock crawling pickup truck for OHV trail work around Moab. Approving a letter of support for the BOM's grant application, improving motorized recreation opportunities in the Moab field office. Adopting a proposed resolution approving the Intrepid Minor Record Survey. I'd entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I can make a motion.
Yes, Craig?
Yeah, I move to adopt the consent agenda as presented and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Motion by Greg Halliday. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Evan Clapper. Discussion.
Yeah.
Jalen?
I just have a question on agenda item P, the Intrepid minor record survey. So the buyers who will benefit from that minor record survey, I'm assuming that they are fully aware that their proposed future use may not be granted. I mean, that seems pretty risky to me, but I guess it's their problem.
Yes, they are aware that these are two separate processes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? You're just frozen, huh? Yeah. Okay, seeing none, I will call for a vote. Mary McGann, yes. Gabriel Wojcik,
Yes.
Evan Clapper,
Yes.
Jalen Hawks,
Yes.
Greg Halliday.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We are now to discussion item. Discussion of general plan update.
Mary, I wasn't called on that one.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. Okay,
That's
apologize,
okay.
Curtis Wells.
I'm gonna vote no.
You're not voting no, you're voting no for the consent agenda?
That's right.
Okay. Any explanation?
Well, there's one specific item in there that I'm not supportive of, but I don't think that that is the consensus of the council, so I don't want to waste any time.
Okay. So the motion passes 5-6, Curtis Wells voting no. Now we are to the discussion items. Discussion of general plan update. Vice Chair Jalen Hawks.
So this is just to update the council, give you a chance to look at your comments, see if I've misrepresented anyone. On page 818 is I created well, actually, Abby, the chair of the Planning Commission, created it. I just formatted it and sent it out an email on the overnight accommodations piece. Trying to get to it. Unfortunately, I was hoping to make it so simple that all you had to do was go in and put a number by and give any comments you wish to. Unfortunately, only 2 people responded, so it's definitely not a majority of the council. But nevertheless, I thought we would move on. And then on page 823, and it's not too late, I can resend that to anybody who wishes to participate, and then we can forward it along to the Planning Commission. On page 823 it skips past Zachariah's old notes and the Planning Commission's new notes on the general plan. And on 823 is where council comments began. We had 4 people respond, and so this is just an overview of what those council members inputted into the process. And there's nothing earth-shattering there. There's nothing real controversial in my opinion, so it doesn't require a vote, but I just wanted to make you aware, give you a chance to refute anything. Let me know if I've misrepresented anything. And with that, I will ask for comments.
Any comments, discussion? Yes, Chris Baird.
So I just wanted to point out that in the past, when we've done general plan updates, the facilitator to the process has usually done, fairly extensive citizen and stakeholder workshops. And a lot of that information gets combined and consolidated. And then after all that happens, which is several months, it's then presented to the council, and then the council begins to discuss the update of the general plan. And so I'm just, bringing up that that's how it's happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That it seems a little backwards the way this discussion is happening relative to the way it's happened in the past, where council members have begun to discuss any revisions to the general plan prior to extensive citizen and stakeholder group involvement. And I mean, I realize that we are not going to have the money to be able to do a general plan update. And so, I'm not saying it's not a good thing to discuss. I'm just, wanting to bring up that through most general plan processes, you would start off soliciting comment from the citizens and the general public. And that's fairly extensive. And then at the culmination of that endeavor, council then begins to pull all that together and make sense of it. And so
Right, and I'll let Mila comment on this, but I don't view this as trying to take away that process. I think that is still the process that should be followed. I just view this as getting a head start, doing a little bit of legwork before when eventually it is able to go out to the public. And I would not recommend doing any changes to the general plan, of course, before that process happened. That's the way I view it. Mila, do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, what we have been talking about as staff that are going to help facilitate this effort is that but it's really important to do this pre-work so that we can narrow our focus before any outside groups get involved. And there is certainly a plan to eventually hire a consultant who will be doing the kind of public engagement and everything that Chris is talking about. But I think it's really helpful for us to do this, have this conversation first, and able to go into it with a bit better of an idea about what we really want to focus on before we engage somebody.
Okay, thanks.
Is there enough useful, harvestable sort of thinking here that you know that would help in that process?
I think so. The Planning Commission is also really eager to hear the council priorities so that they start thinking about things. I think that in the end, you know, whatever pre-work that we can do in this format will potentially shorten our engagement with a consultant, which could help with budget concerns. And I think it's, you know, it's good to be thinking about these regardless. We're also hoping to be able to do a complementing and a zoning review so that all matches for general plan and zoning could match. So whole things are going to be helpful for the Planning Commission as well.
So Mila, I think you're kind of breaking up there. You might want to turn your video off and try to say that one more time.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's my internet connection. Is it better?
No.
Not so much. Okay.
Maybe just try it again. Sometimes it takes a minute for it to react. So just try one more time and we'll see if we can get it across.
Okay. So I was just saying that I think this work by the council is really helpful for the Planning Commission to be able to work on the zoning rewrites as well. Staff is really interested in being able to support their work, and I think whatever, you know, direction that the council can give us as far as main priorities is really helpful to be able to move forward with all the other background work that needs to be done before a full rewrite.
Okay, thank you, Mila.
Great.
Did that come through?
It was
Yeah.
better.
That's all I have.
Any further discussion?
No, I mean, it looks like some of the comments, Curtis shared an article that I thought was interesting about economic resilience, and it looks like some of the comments here reflect some of the ideas presented in that article. And yeah, I enjoyed seeing some of the other comments, and I would encourage those council people who didn't have a chance to respond to do so, because it's interesting to, you know, get all of these ideas out there.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, there is not a public hearing. There is no closed session. There's not a closed session, so we have completed the agenda. So I will adjourn this meeting of the Grand County Council's regular meeting. Thank you. See you tomorrow at 1.